So we have garlic for the first year. It's 4 different garlic. We got some from Pennsylvania. We got some organic garlic from Whole Foods that we planted. And then 2 of them are from one of the seed suppliers that I buy from. Cucumbers, about 7 different varieties of tomatoes, 4 different varieties of lettuce. We do turnips, radishes, 2 different varieties of onions, carrots, 4 different varieties of kale. I do 5 different varieties of microgreens, and then a litany of herbs, dill, basil, oregano, thyme, sage, parsley, cilantro. So I was a chef. I went to culinary school. I worked in kitchens for about 13 years, and when you work with food on a very, very, very large scale, you kind of start to realize that unfortunately a lot of it is trucked in, bussed in. You know, it's very difficult when you're doing food on that scale to get it locally or from, you know, from local farmers to not have it shipped in, bussed in from all over the place. So I started getting into the sourcing of ingredients, whether that was meat, fish, vegetables, and then kind of based on where we live, it's, you know, I can't raise pigs here or have a herd of cattle, so I kind of got into vegetable gardening, did a lot of YouTube, bought a lot of books, and I kind of stumbled upon what they call market gardening. And there's a no-dig technique, which basically you're not using tillage in any way, shape, or form. You're just adding compost year after year, feeding the soil. Really the focus is about soil health, and then if you have healthy soil, you can grow healthy plants. It's very difficult, it's very tough. You know, I know a lot, it's a new thing now, especially with COVID and stuff like that. A lot of people want to do it. It's great for the community. It builds a sense of community. There's nothing better than locally grown produce. It just, there's so many strong relationships that can be founded within that. And last year I was selling vegetable boxes weekly to people here in Keyport, and it was an amazing experience. But yeah, it was just so much to do that on the side as well as a full-time job. It was a lot. So this year how I've been harvesting is I'll just cut the whole head, and that goes inside and I'll wash it. But last year when I was doing the veggie boxes, so I would only pick the outer leaves, and I had like 2 beds of lettuce. So you only pick the outer leaves, and that's what I would wash and pack for everybody. But then it'll keep growing up. So instead of losing the whole plant by harvesting the whole plant, I would just take the outer leaves. And the same thing with kale. Like my kale and collards last year, by the time I harvested them,
the wrinkly stuff is the kale, right?
Yeah,
kale.
And I would have them, you know, my kale and collards would be 3-4 feet tall, because you just pick the outer leaves and the stem will grow. Pick the outer leaves, stem will grow. It just keeps going up and up and up. What we don't eat, sometimes the chickens get, sometimes the neighbors get. And I'm focusing more on crops that, you know, like, so I've never grown potatoes before. So we're trying potatoes this year. Never grown garlic, so we're doing garlic now. Onions, different stuff like that. Whereas when I was growing for people in the community, I had to grow stuff that grew really quick, really fast. Lots of lettuces, herbs, radishes, stuff like that. It didn't take up a lot of space. I could grow a lot of it very quickly, get it washed and cleaned and put in a box, and then give that to the community. I even over this winter had, granted I had like a little hoop house under plastic, but I kept 2 garden beds. You know, I planted stuff in fall, it got somewhat established, and then I netted it and covered it, and I had harvest all through winter. Really, it's just that early spring is a little difficult, because you obviously can't plant in the middle of winter and then have produce for early spring. But I also grow microgreens inside, and so for, you know, if you wanted smoothies, little lettuces, tiny little stuff like that, little salads, stuff for sandwiches, So technically 365 I have some sort of vegetable growing and able to harvest, but in the traditional garden sense, really just early spring is when I'm kind of, that's the only time I'm going to the grocery store.
Is anything either accidental or deliberately come back?
This was the first year where I didn't bring in outside compost. I was actually able, with the help of the chickens, to make enough of our own compost to dress the garden beds, have enough nutrient supply there, I think, to get me through this season. But if, you know, a lot of people know, if you don't get your compost hot enough and it doesn't burn up those seeds, you throw it on the ground thinking, all right, this is my fertility for the year and I'm ready to go and I'm gonna plant into it. Next thing you know, you got tomatoes and all kinds of other stuff, pumpkins, you know, things that you threw in the compost hole never got hot enough, so those seeds are still viable, and they'll sprout and they'll take off. And so you sometimes got to be careful about what you are putting in the compost. Everybody's like, oh Nate, look at your great garden. And like, first 3 years I gardened, terrible. I made every mistake. Furthest thing from a green thumb that you can have. Like, I had like the touch of death when it came to plants, and now like we got stuff growing, right? So it's going really well. It's just about paying attention, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and just, you kind of just go with the flow. So this year, like last year with the veggie boxes, I had a very set schedule, like very routine. You know, Monday I did all my weeding. Tuesday I transplanted any plants. Wednesday I did some pruning. I tried to take like Thursdays off. Friday morning, I usually got up at like 4 a.m., harvested and washed everything, packed it away, and then Saturday mornings I did my deliveries. Now that we're not doing that, my wife and I are trying to make a point to get and eat something out of the garden every single day. And the garden has changed too. Like last year was like meant to be very high production, high efficiency. This year it's a little more, you know, like I was trying to tell you earlier, we got rid of a few garden beds. We kind of made our pathways a little wider to make the garden more comfortable, more open, easier access to everything. And so yeah, even if it's just coming out and picking some herbs real quick to throw in a marinade or whatever we're doing, it's into some pasta. Could be something as simple as just come out, cut a head of lettuce, wash it, make a salad for the evening. So we're making a goal every single day.